Welcome. Tonight I have a special guest, which I will introduce you to shortly once we get the podcast rolling. I will definitely entertain you tonight. That's a promise. But go ahead. I wanted to sign on a few minutes early to let a few of you guys sign in. And so, because with Facebook world, it gets kind of slow targeting everybody to get in, but it's almost 8 o'clock. So you guys go ahead and start coming into the room. And when you do, just go ahead and message me and let me know that you're here. So in the meantime, I'm going to sit here and tell you about some wonderful events we have coming up. Well, those of you who missed the grief group, it went really well. We made Easter baskets and for our loved ones in spirit. And I had a senior moment. Let me tell you all what happened. So we were out buying the baskets, and we were buying the baskets and buying like the ceramic things for everybody to paint, because this has got to be a creative art project. And I got these little planters with these beautiful color flowers in them. And then I got home. Hey, Deidre, thanks for joining. We're going to get rolling at 8 o'clock. I just got it on so people can start coming in, because Facebook takes time. So anyway, so we were doing the baskets, and I got these little flowers. And I got home, and I put the flowers on the counter, and I said, oh, these look dry. So I grabbed a little medicine cup, and I'm putting water in them. Then my finger hit them. They were silk. I had a real senior moment. So I was trying to water silk flowers. I said, yeah, I had a real senior moment there for a minute. Just goes to show you. Ooh. It was funny. I had to laugh at myself. It was so funny. I watered about 4 of them before I realized, because I had a dozen of them. But the baskets came out real cute. If you guys following us on Facebook want to take a look at them, they'll be there. And everybody made a basket with their loved one in mind. And then we all talked about our loved ones. And next month's group, I haven't set a date yet. It's going to probably be the Monday before, or the Saturday, maybe the Saturday before Mother's Day, or the week before. I don't know yet. We do grief group, but what we're doing for that grief group is you're going to bring something that reminds you of your mother, and it doesn't have to be nice. So, and you're going to tell a story about mom with whatever it is you bring. And so that's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a Mother's Day grief group, and we'll do the same thing in June for Father's Day. So we like to do creative projects, for every grief group that we do. And so those are a lot of fun. And then we did the Nacho Dead People this month, which was we had a sold out crowd. We had a waiting list for it, actually. So it went over really well. And the bus tour. So right now the bus tour is planned for, let me look at a date over here on my calendar. I think it's planned for May 17th. I'm kind of having trouble getting the bus, because that is Tulane's graduation day. But it'll be a daytime tour, and it's going to be on the bus with Trini Simmons and I. And we're going to have unlimited champagne. Everybody's going to get a reading, and we're going to go take you out to some real creepy places. And we're going to even take you on a serial killer murder spree hunt. So you're going to have to tell us where the murders happened. And so that's going to be a lot of fun. We did it for Halloween, and everybody got it. So we're going to teach you a little bit about that, and that's going to be fun. But we're going to do a lot of history on the tour. We're going to take and go down and have a lot of fun. Oh, can I have a negative story about my mother? It would be a great release. I bet it would, Deidre. I bet it would. So that's what I figured. Some people, everybody has different feelings about mom, so I don't want, again, it doesn't have to be bad. It could be a funny story. It could be something that happened, like a story, something that happened that maybe a little bit embarrassing. But I tell people, really bring your wildest story about mom. It doesn't have to be all positive. It could be whatever. I said, so it's going to be a lot of fun for Mother's Day. We're going to do the same thing for Father's Day. So it's grief group, and that's how you get through grief, is by letting go of those things and saying, my God, how did I live through that, or whatever it is to help you get past the point of grief. And so who else is here other than Deidre? I see it's 3 of y'all watching right now on Facebook. I know I can't see who's on TikTok, but Facebook and usually YouTube I can see. So I see Deidre here. Anybody else want to say hello before we get started? Because it's almost 8 o'clock. I'm about to get started in just a moment. I have a special guest for y'all tonight who's going to join us in a little bit once I introduce my guest. Hi, Crystal. Hey, Zeta. Zeta, I got a special guest. I think you might know this guest, I think. So I got a special guest tonight, and we're gonna talk about some cool stuff. So again, I'm trying to do the bus tour, so block your calendars for the 17th of May. I'm waiting on the confirmation from the bus company. Once I get it, I will post it. It will, if I can get the bus, it'll be posted by this week. And it's going to be, like I said, 2 to 4 hours long. It depends. It depends on how long the stop is at the bar that we go to where you do the hunt. So that really depends on that. And then, but it's a lot of history. We're going to go through the battlefield. There's a couple of different cemeteries and stuff. It's going to be $100 a person because it comes with unlimited champagne and readings and all kinds of fun stuff. So, and like I said, it's going to be a pretty much an whole afternoon event because we have I think 5 stops to make on this little tour. And it's, like I said, it's a precursor because the church wants the tour to happen more and for more frequent, but this is just us doing it as a personal event to see how it goes and see if you guys like the history and if you like the task. And we also got another added surprise. Me, Misty Gaither, and I and Dina Lally are looking at also renting. There's also a platoon boat that holds 30 people to do galleries on, and that comes with food and drink as well. So that's coming up. That's going to probably be in the fall though, and that's in the bayou where we take you on a bayou tour while you're getting read and doing a gallery and that kind of stuff. So that's going to be a lot of fun too. So we got a lot of fun, cool events coming up, and we're also working on another project in another state right now. Misty Gaither and I think Dina's might be involved in that too. But I can't tell y'all just yet about that. That's a secret, but it is definitely a nice project that I think y'all will enjoy. So as soon as I can let the cat out the bag on that, I will. Anyway, lots going on, and some of y'all missed serial killer trivia. Last night we had fun doing that at Chef Ron's. It's usually the second Tuesday of every month, but this month it was the third Tuesday because of the Paracon in Lafayette. So let's get started. Hello everybody, welcome to Touching Eternity podcast. I'm your host Sid Patrick, and tonight we're going to have some really cool conversation with a very close friend of mine. I'm about to introduce her. She is a wonderful lady. She is an inspiration. She is known for all of her creative writing and many books that she's written. And she's also one of New Orleans' most famous historians as far as I'm concerned. And her name is Miss Kalila Smith. Here she is.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Let's see, where do I look? Oh, the camera's over there.
The camera's right here, yeah.
I'm confused where the camera is. Okay. Hi everybody, how y'all doing tonight?
So... anyway, Tina, I'll get back with you when I know more about where the bus is going to pick us up at. But like I said, I got to get the bus to do the deal first. As soon as we do that, it was supposed to come today, but I will definitely know before the weekend. And I will definitely be online letting you guys all know. So anyway, Kalila and I want to talk about, Kalila's got a new and upcoming project of her own. Tell us about it, Kalila.
Okay, so I had several podcasts, a while back during COVID. I launched a couple of them. I had Scary Story with Kalila, which was basically just telling ghost stories. And I started one that was called Afterlife Mysteries. And that one I wound up doing with Billy Roberts, who was a medium from the UK. In fact, the most famous medium in the UK. He had been around since the 1960s. And he was the very first television psychic over there. So we were, pretty much going with that one for a while. And unfortunately, 3 years ago, he passed away. And I never could really get it off of the ground again. It was like I could not get it together and, it just never fell into place. So I eventually last year finally got something together, and I called it Paranormal Planet. I did 3 shows, and then my hip went out. And so
it orbited.
It's just orbited, and I wound up with a hip replacement at the end of the year. Pretty much my whole year was a wash. So in looking at some of the 3 episodes that I did, I was like, I don't know if I like this format. I don't really like it. And I decided that I wanted to do something more free-flowing and go back to the old documentary style of filming, where I actually take the camera out, I sit with somebody, I put it on the tripod, and I actually do a real interview rather than the talking heads kind of thing. And so I kind of gave it some thought, and it's like, okay, do I really want to just do paranormal? And it's like, no, because there's a lot of other cool stuff out there. And then I started getting things where every time I turned around, there's always something weird happening. You know, there's always some weird conversation going on. And every time I turn around, there's somebody saying, you know, you can't make this shit up. You just can't make this shit up. And it's like, you know, I'm going to call the show that. You can't make this shit up.
I think it's great.
And that's what it's called. And, you know, it could be something funny. It could be something weird. It could be some strange phenomena. It could be some mystery. It could also be some true crime. Because I've been involved in all of those things with the tours and also just, you know, in my writings and everything. So I thought, you know, let's go with a hodgepodge and see where this takes me. Oh. So, you know, it's going to be kind of fun.
Clearly. There we go.
There it is. Okay, yeah, I know. I'm sitting crooked here. So it's like, wait, which way do I go with the camera? Okay.
Right here. So those of you who know that Khalil and I have been working together for a long time.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and y'all always see me flash this up there, but how many of y'all saw Khalila's name on this book? So yes, yeah. Khalila and I wrote this book. I co-authored it. She authored, I co-authored, and it's called Seance Experiments. And this was just a lot of the different things we've experienced in many different seance rooms, because we've experienced many different mediums, many physical mediums, many table tipping mediums, and many things that we've created in seance rooms.
Yeah, we have quite an adventure in that book. I mean, that was like a couple of years worth of adventures going on, and we had some amazing things go on. I mean, things that, I mean, you know, you can't make this shit.
You can't make that shit up.
You cannot make it up. I mean, things happened, and you know, as it's happening, I'm writing it down and recording it, and you know, we're adding it into the book as chapters, and it's just, you know, and you look back at it, and it's like, wow, that really happened.
It did.
You know, if we tried to make it happen again, we couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of stuff.
So guys, you know, we have, between the two of us, we have so many projects. Many of them are apart, a couple are together. Both of us are involved in a whole lot of different things. Yeah. We have so many topics that we could talk to you guys about. So many.
I know.
So
I know.
many.
What do you usually talk to on this show? Because I haven't even had time to look at this show. I'm so busy.
It's whatever I want. It's my podcast.
It's a hodgepodge.
It's a hodgepodge. It's Touching Eternity, the podcast. So it's a lot of spiritual stuff, but it's also a lot of self-growth, self-development. It's a lot of different things. I know that you had mentioned, did you want to talk about that on You Just Yours? You want to talk about the people? You know, I'm saying the comment of the people. You want to mention the people?
We can do the people. Let's do the people. Bring
the people.
The people's a very interesting thing to talk about.
People's a very interesting thing to talk about. And that's why I didn't put a topic up here, because I didn't want to be limited to the many things that Khalil and I could talk to you guys about.
Yeah, the people. I'm fascinated with the people subject, because that is something that I think it's like it's deep diving into a wormhole.
Right, it is.
And it's, you know, you really start wondering, and then next thing you know, you're walking down the street and you're looking at these people, and you're like, is that one of them right there?
Is that one of them right
there? Tell us about, you're the one that brought it up.
So I brought it up because Khalil has been wanting to do a talk, especially with me, and honestly, we've never really had the deep conversation. So you're going to get it firsthand.
It's
fresh tonight. And living in New Orleans, we get to see a lot of it, mainly because of the French Quarter, and then the New Orleans area being the city that it was, especially before Katrina.
Yeah.
Especially before Katrina. And but we want to talk about soulless people. So isn't that a crazy subject?
Did you know that existed? Did you even know there was such a thing?
Right.
I knew there was such a thing because I've worked in the French Quarter for like 30 years, and I've seen some strange things down there.
Hey, Bernice. Okay. Hey, Portia. So we got one. We got one. We want to talk about. So it's soulless people, and again, I call them more like fillers. They're just fillers in a scene, and you may notice, like when you walk in, you'll see people interact. There are people who interact. There are people who, but then there's always that one or that two. And it doesn't mean, and I don't want to say that they don't have a soul, because who knows that, right? I mean, but when you look at them, they usually have very dark eyes, like or no life in their eyes at all, and they're just there. And I don't know if you've ever noticed them. How many of you think you have seen them or have met them? So we wanted to talk. And again, are they negative? I've never had a bad experience with one. I need to say that. So I can't say whether they're a negative thing or a positive. I kind of feel they're just people put in a place as a filler. I call them fillers.
Fillers.
Like they fill up the environment. They fill up. They create. They help create something. And remember, we never really know what the big picture is. You know what I mean? So maybe they're just filling up
like
the picture.
Extras in a movie.
Like extras in a movie, right? They just kind of throw them.
They're like an extra.
Spirit just throws them in there.
Yeah, they're like extras, and they're like the extras out here.
I love it.
I hate saying that. But
Just like I live in Washington D.C. I see them every day. I bet you do in Washington
you gotta
D.C.
check out Rampart Street.
Rampart here. So again, I don't think these are necessarily just people who do drugs or people who do a lot of drinking. I mean, they could, but I don't think that's limited to them, because I've actually known some people that I felt were soulless and actually had conversations with them. And when I would talk to them, they literally, when you look in their eyes, they have black eyes. Like, they don't have brown eyes, they don't have green eyes, they have black eyes. And they can interact, but it's, I don't know, it's like
I have theories. I have theories on this. And again, this is just theories.
Right.
They're just theories. And I think that there are people out here, and I've done a lot of research on this for decades, and there's people out here who are infected with the dead and the discarnate dead that do not cross over into the light. Right. They're on the earthbound and they walk in. Now, we're not talking about demon possessions. No. We're talking about attachments and walk-ins, okay? And you get these people who have enough walk-ins that at some point, say for instance, you have an individual who was in a coma. You have an individual that maybe had an accident, they're in a coma, and that personality that was in that body is not there anymore. And another not so developed spirit walks into that body, and then it wakes up. So you've got a being living inside this body. And it even sounds weird when I'm saying it. So I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, she sounds really like off the wall. But I've known people where it's like, you're talking to this person and you're like, this person has no history and they have no clue. You can tell that they're going through the motions of what they think a person should be doing.
Right, like
but they don't really know what they're doing. They have no clue. So it's like, I think a person would be doing this, so I'm doing it. So am I making sense with this? I think they're walk-ins. I really do. And I think that gets to a certain point where you're so over inundated with these kind of spirits, these discarnate spirits, that the person that was originally there is no longer there. They're gone. They're gone. But that body is animated by these discarnate spirits that passed away, didn't cross over, and they just are not highly developed, and they're just animating that body. Now, I read a book, and I always used it when I was teaching my classes at UNO and at Delgado, and it was called The Unquiet Dead, and it's written by a psychologist named Dr. Edith Fiore, Fiore, and she wrote this book based on her studies as a psychologist with people who were diagnosed with different psychological problems like schizophrenia, whatever. And she found that a lot of the people that she was talking to had these types of attachments or possessions, if you will, but not demon. And they were attached to the physical plane to an addiction.
An addiction or an energy of some sort. Because I don't think everybody's got addiction. Yes, DJ, I think Deidre asked, "Do you think that they may be from another dimension, from the universe?" It's possible.
It's possible.
It's all possible.
There's something Billy Roberts used to call these types of spirits vagabond spirits, and they don't really cross over. They never get highly developed, and they're just wandering out here.
And I'm gonna change the verbiage a little bit. I would probably call them energies because when they're soulless, to me, the soul is the energy that goes up. But I think they're truly soulless. You know what I mean? Like,
well, some of them could be. Some of them could be.
I think these are energies that.
Well, and there's also things where you've got people who have dabbled in magic, and they've tried to create spirits. Like your person who wants a demon. I want a demon, so I'm going to try to
we met those.
And we're going to create. We've met these people, and they try to create one. Well, if you put enough energy into something, you're going to create something. You may not conjure up a demon, but you may create some sort of a very low vibrational energy that's not very highly evolved. They don't have much of a personality, but it's just like chaotic energy, and it kind of takes on what seems to be a life of their own. And the more energy you give it, the more energy it's going to take on, if that makes sense. And they kind of give it a personality, if this makes sense. It's kind of in depth. You get real metaphysical on this stuff, and I
also feel that I've also seen people who had a good life, and then they've given up. And when they give up, they've lost that vibration, or they've lost the ability to grow vibrationally speaking. I think that too might have something to do with some.
It could,
because I know who had I know people who would probably classify as some of this, and they've had active childs, but something's happened in their life where some trauma or something has pushed them away energetically from facing the world, so they retrieve, and then they become blank.
Yeah, that's possible too. Depression,
right.
Grief will do that. You've got a lot of that where people just disconnect, and they just deflect so much that they just push away. And there's also a lot of theories that when we do lose a loved one, a piece of their own soul goes with them on the other side, and they have to, sometimes through loss and everything. This is why we do soul retrievals, where you go back and you get those pieces of your soul that you've lost with other people, and you bring them back to you, and you reconnect with that.
So this is a topic we've been wanting to talk about. We've never really, even together, we've never really talked about it. But we know that I've known people. I mean, Khalil and I both worked and lived in the Quarter for many, many years, and my younger years especially. And so, this has always been something that's crossed my like why would this person choose this? Why? And growing up and developing, and as I got older and more spiritual, it starts to make more sense.
Well, it does make sense. And the thing is, I don't think these people necessarily choose it. I don't think they choose it. And a classic example, and I watch a lot of crime shows, true crime shows, and they just had the episode last night about the Katrina, where the guy cooked his girlfriend, Zachary Bowen, cooked his girlfriend after he killed her.
Right.
And he was given his story. And when Katrina hit, when they finally opened up the French Quarter, we went back in, and I was down there. We start the tours on St. Peter Street, right by Bourbon Street, and I stood right in the middle of St. Peter and Bourbon, which is one of the main thoroughfares down there. And it was a strange void down there. It
says we're frozen. Can you hear our voice regularly? Because on my end, we're not frozen. Everything looked like it's working. So I don't know if it's your system. I don't know if it's because y'all saying we're frozen.
Wait, which ones are you on? 3 or you're on 2 shows or 3?
I'm on all. Well, I can take us
this
off.
This one, yeah, this one looks like it's not. Might be.
No, it's fine, but I can take us. All right, I just took us off of TikTok.
Yeah, because those 2 are streaming.
Yes.
It looks like, yeah.
So I took us off of TikTok. Let's see if that'll help you guys from us from free. It looks like we're fine on us on this side.
Yeah, the other ones say you're streaming.
Okay, so.
But yeah, there was a strange void down there, and it was like there was this almost like this negative flow, and what few people were left on it. What happened was you had a lot more dead than you have alive. So the discarnate dead are feeding off of the energy of the people partying there, and suddenly there's no people to feed on. And what happened was a lot of these people, the few people that stayed there, some of them got infected with it. And I think that that particular crime, for instance, probably wouldn't have happened had it not been those circumstances. I think something jumped inside of him and kind of took over. And there's been instances of that sort of thing.
We've seen some crazy stuff. I mean,
Yes.
but you know, we've really. I dropped one of the pods, so we only on 2 pods right now, the 2 main ones. So therefore, we shouldn't freeze because it doesn't like it's freezing on our side. But back to what we were saying, yes, there are things that can create fields, that can create different types of vibrational vibrational hazards, I guess you could say.
Yeah, you could. I
know.
guess you could call them that. But I mean, in the simplest form, though, I mean, you've got spirits that walk in, or somebody that's engaged in a lot of drugs over the years, and I see people every day, and I look at them, and it's like, how is that body still functioning? Because if you look at the body and the condition the body is in, and if you even look at some of the medical tests on some of these people, it's like, how is this person still walking around? And it can only be explained is that whatever's living inside that body doesn't want to let go.
Sometimes, but it could be any stream of them. It could be hate, could be something else, could be a walk-in, could be a lot of things,
Yeah, but it's.
I mean, let's take it to a more lighter subject. Think about the mom or the grandmother who's laying in bed passing away on their deathbed, and how they hang on till they see that grandchild, or they hang on till that person enters the room. I mean, that will.
Oh yeah, the will. The will can be very, very strong.
The will could be very strong.
Yeah, my I remember my niece telling me my brother was like that, and he waited until she got there, and she said, "It's okay, Daddy, you can let go now."
Right.
And then he took his last breath.
And it could be a will of some kind that holds them in as well. So I don't want everybody to get all spooked out, because this is like a conversation Claire has been wanting to have with me for a long time. So I brought it here tonight so we could have it in front of you.
Yeah, we just kind of decided to throw this together here.
Right.
But when you bring up the black eyes, again, going back to the crime, the serial killers. If you look at the serial killers and listen to some of the descriptions, when some of these guys go into this
Mm-hmm.
serial killer mode, their eyes go black. I've heard it with Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
I've heard it with several other ones, to where their eye colors would literally change and go totally black like that. It's almost like something else steps in and takes over.
Yeah. And again, is it a dual personality that they came into this world with? Is it something an energy that they picked up while they were here? What created that happening? And what else I find weird that I've seen in some of the people that I know, and some of people that I've met that I felt might have had a tinge of this, is that when the universe is ready, yes, Manson included. When the universe,
good example, yeah.
Yes. When the universe is ready for those people to exit, the universe takes them out like quick. And I've seen that a lot too, because I know people who passed who had those eyes and were kind of those people, and they passed like all. It doesn't matter how old they are, and some of them who became coroner's cases were also unexplainable deaths. Like they can't even find why the person passed away. They just like that.
Well, yeah. See, there's that too, and I've seen people literally, what I call eaten from the inside out.
Right.
To where they're just consumed and they just lose weight and lose weight, and they can't find anything physically wrong with them to explain it, and it has to be something spiritual.
And so those of you who went on the cemetery tour with us that time when we had the gathering, we went down to the cemetery in the parish. I told y'all none of y'all take anything from this cemetery. That was why. Which you just said.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you don't want to do that. You don't ever want to do that, because there's always something attached. If you take something from the cemetery, something's going to follow you home.
Something, yeah.
and you're gonna have to go back and bring it
And,
back.
and believe me, it's not a ghost from the cemetery. It's not a dead body that's there. It's a guardian spirit usually, or guardian energy.
Yeah,
of
there's in every
the
tradition
realm.
there's
This-
spirits that guard those places like that to protect them, and they can be pretty fierce. But the thing is, like for instance, in the voodoo tradition, they're called the Gede, but they're not highly involved spirits. They're not the same spirits that
Right.
you would work with to bring love or money or protection. These are spirits that are specifically just to guard the burial grounds. So when you go in there, some people go in there and they try to bargain with them or go do love spells to them, and it's like, don't do that, because they don't understand what you're doing. They're not
Right.
very highly evolved. So when you go in and you bargain with them and you promise them something and you don't keep your promise, they're going to come eat you alive.
Yeah.
And I've seen it. And
We've actually seen
interestingly enough, this is
Tell
where
them your
zombies
story.
which one?
Tell me about the fellow who, and we won't say that, but the fellow who took something from the cemetery and you warned him, and remember?
Well, I was getting ready to tell
Oh,
him about
yeah,
one of them.
yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of different ones. There was one guy who worked for us as a tour guide many years ago, and he became very. He was an artist. He was also an artist, and he became very obsessed with one of the cemetery spirits, the Baron Samedi, and everybody's familiar with that. That's the one that looks like the skeleton with the top hat and everything, and he started doing all of his art about the Baron, and we accidentally kind of used him to play the Baron in our 2009 television show. So we kind of cast him with that, and after he played that role, he didn't want to let it go. And he started doing all of his artwork to that, and it was like, he's getting kind of possessed with that. And he came to me one day and he mentioned a person's name who was a voodoo priest at the time. And he says, he's told me if I give him some rides, he's going to show me some tricks in the cemetery. And I said, please don't do that. I said, that's not good. Really, it's not good. I said, you're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble. And I could tell when he did it, because all of a sudden I saw him walking down the street and he had the glazed look on his face. He looked like a zombie. He was like unanimated. He was walking straight. He had this glazed look on his face. And he walked right past me, and I said, oh my God, he did it. He was playing around the cemetery, and he wound up going crazy. And eventually he came to me and he says, I'm leaving New Orleans because if I stay here, I'm going to die. And I said, you're probably right. That's a great idea if you get out of here. And he was also a chef. He was a very good chef. And he said, I got a job in a restaurant in Brazil. And I'm like, oh God, why Brazil,
Yeah. Well, he could get saved there too.
Why did you go? And I didn't say anything. And I said, oh, this is wonderful. It's probably a good place for you. Get out, just get out of here. And the other thing he was doing, he was stealing things off of Marie Laveau's tomb, like the liquor and stuff like that, and bringing it to his apartment, and it's like, please don't do this stuff. Please don't. So anyway, long story short, he went to Brazil, and I saw him on Facebook. And one morning he says, I'm going shopping in the boneyard. And I said, I urge you not to do this. Don't do it. And I tried to explain to him, it's one thing you did it in New Orleans, but you're in Brazil. You do not speak their language. You don't know their traditions. And there's so many different strains of different African religions there that you have no idea what you're working with. And you're not going to know who to go to lift anything that you open on yourself. So you're really going to be kind of screwed if you do this. And he went and did it anyway. He started babbling senselessly. And when he came home, he literally looked like a human skeleton. I don't know what became of him, but he started telling people his name was Voodoo. And he was absolutely insane. And have no idea, but I mean, it's not anything to play with for sure.
No, it's definitely nothing to play with. And so the reason why when I teach my Energetics 2 class, I'm going to teach you how to put that energy out there so you don't get that crossed in your life at all. Because you don't need to experience that at all.
No. I mean, and people, you remember me, doing the cemetery tours and going to the cemeteries and everything, but what they don't realize is that I was going 3 to 4 times a year flying to Miami to Babala, which is like a high priest in the Centurion tradition, and getting massive cleanses done, pulling all of that energy off of me, and then getting fussed at by the Babala, telling me stay out of cemeteries. So people don't realize how much work it was clearing that stuff off of me, just doing that kind of work. going in there. So you get older, you're like, I don't think I want to mess with that anymore. So I don't. But yeah, it's nothing to mess with. And I've seen people that go in there trying to do spell work and all.
Right. It's okay to go
not
to a
good.
cemetery, but don't mess around in the cemetery.
Yeah, well, what I was told, is you go in, you do your business. You're going to bring flowers to your tomb, or you're going to go clean up a tomb, or you're going to take care of something. You take care of your business and you get out. You don't hang out there. It's not there for fun. And you don't go in and start talking to the spirits. That's one thing I used to see, and I would see tour guides burn out like that. All of a sudden they start telling me, well, I go by that one tomb, and that one tomb with the little boy, and now the little boy shows up, and the little boy's talking to me, and I walk around the tomb, and the little boy's holding my hand, and it's like, it's not that little boy talking to you. It looks like that little boy. It's presenting itself as that little boy, but it's not that little boy. That little boy's gone. So what you've got is a discarnate spirit that's presenting itself in a way that's going to be friendly towards you, so it can latch on to you and walk into your body. So, you got to be careful with that kind of stuff.
Now, how many of y'all want to go on the bus tour?
Now, who wants to go to the cemetery, huh? Any takers?
I'm going. I have good protection, though.
Yeah, it's always good to cleanse yourself after you go into it's something like that.
And how do we do that?
Oh, there's a number of ways to do it. First off, you got to ground yourself. You can say prayers. You can also, use sea salt and water, coconut water.
Yeah,
You take a good bath. You can use Florida water, splash yourself with Florida water before you go in. And when you get home, take your shoes off and ground yourself. Stand there and let the energy disperse it into the ground before you go inside.
Mm-hmm. And when we go on the cemetery tours, when we went to the cemetery to go visit it, the one that was built in 1785. I definitely tell people, do not take anything. Go look, go just walk, look, see the names. Because what was cool about the cemetery that we went to, a lot of New Orleans names are in that cemetery, like original names.
Yeah.
Like from the 1700s. That came over. So
yeah.
So it was really cool to see the history and start seeing how the city itself came together and built, and who was zooming who, and why this family had something and that family didn't. Because walking through, you could figure it out.
Oh yeah.
It was like a walking map of history.
It'll give you a roadmap of it. Yeah, and it's very fascinating. But you have to realize that
I had to go home and count my fingers and toes because I had family members messing with family members. Okay. So I called my sister, count those fingers and toes.
Yeah.
My dad used to tease us, goes, you better count your fingers and toes, you might have 6. He used to tease us like that when we were little, but it wasn't his side of the family in that cemetery. It was the other side. But a lot of popular New Orleans names, like names you hear all over, like businesses, and one of the most famous ones in there is Beauregard's parents are buried there.
Oh, really?
Yes,
really?
yes.
Wow.
Beauregard's parents are buried there in that cemetery. And so it has a lot of history, has a ton of history, and the Archdiocese wants to kind of shut it all down because they want to sell it.
Oh.
Yeah, so
yeah, that's awful.
So so that's why they wonder if we're going to try to contribute and raise money by doing some tours down there and giving some money to the church to try to help out the church. So that's the main goal. So that's in the works. But we're going to be doing the first one on the 17th of May. I just got to get the bus confirmed. I have 2 companies. One was supposed to call me back today. If I don't hear from him tomorrow, I'm going with the first company, and we're going to book it, but it's not booked yet because it's Tulane's graduation day. So
which cemetery?
So it's it's down in the I don't know if you're familiar with Islanos. It's the people that came over from Canary Islands.
Wow.
And they habitated in the lower St. Bernard area. But a lot of Italians that came over as well, and other cultures were down there because my family's Italian and they're in that cemetery too. My Italian side is in that cemetery. And so when you go in there, you will see a lot of names that you'll hear a lot around the city of New Orleans, a lot of names that you'll see. Actually, I don't know, I think Zeta might even have some reference because there's the Jean Froza down there in the grave.
The Jean Froza?
Yes, Yeah,
Oh,
there's
wow.
Jean Fro's down there.
She got
Yeah,
John.
no, there's some Jean Fro's down there. There's some Levicaris down there, which is my Italian side. The Rendazes are in there.
Oh, wow.
Who's the Torreses are all in there.
Oh, yeah, that's Torres
Oh, yeah,
land down there.
it's
yeah, Torres,
all
big
these
name.
names, you big names that you're gonna recognize. Their roots are in there.
Yeah.
Like all their roots are in this. So it's really, really interesting. We're gonna definitely get a lot here. And we're gonna also take you by the pet cemetery. We can't go into the pet cemetery because it's actually a creepier story. But the history of this place is creepier than the movie Pet Cemetery.
Oh my God!
Oh, I
How
know.
is that possible?
Oh, it is. Oh, it's a mixture of serial killer and murderer and
You sent me something on it, and then I got busy and I
and
didn't look
ghosts
at it.
and
Oh my
ghosts
God,
and
oh my
and
God.
goblins and everything else with this place. So we're gonna drive by where that is. You really can't see it, but we're gonna talk about it as we show you its location.
Oh, you can't
cannot.
go in there.
Oh no, it's after Katrina, it's overgrown. And
Oh,
the only
yeah,
way to get
yeah.
in it is through this one property that's owned by someone. They will not let you in it. So no, but we're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about the story of it, because I already did all the research on that. We did a psychic investigation class, and that's where I took them, because it was the history there is cool. Like it needs to be a movie. It's creepy and good. So look, she goes, yes, that's my cousin. Oh, you related to the Jean Fros? Well, Zeta's a Jean Fro. Daphne, you know Zeta. Yes, Pet Cemetery, Saint Bernard. Don't give it away. I want people.
Wait, which one's his Jean Fro?
Daphne says she's cousins of the Jean Fro.
Oh, okay, yeah, Zeta.
Yeah.
Zeta is where did Zeta go?
She's in there somewhere. Zeta's listening. She listens every Wednesday night at 8:00, but she might not be typing.
Well, what's funny is that Zeta, I don't know which side though, I think it's Zeta's grandmother and one of my paternal grandmother are both from White Castle, Louisiana. And that's where the Nova Scotia people, a lot of them went. And so is Tanya Aikens, mother or grandmother. Yeah. All from White Castle. It's a tiny little place, tiny little place. Barely has any people there. And
there's Zeta. She goes, I'm here.
Hey Zeta.
I told you were listening. Zeta, you and Daphne might be cousins. Y'all gonna have to have a talk one day. Y'all gonna be related. Anyway, so getting back into the topic though, we wanted to talk about. Clearly, I've been wanting to have that conversation for a long time, and I actually knew some people who I felt were people who had bad energy because they were always in trouble. They lived very blank lives. I knew them just from hanging out in the quarter. You know what I mean? And when they would leave and go home, I never knew where would home be. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's kind of sad.
A lot of them had dark eyes and just that look. And then we call them, they were fillers. They filled or they could create something happen, like walk across the street at the right time, to create something, I call them fillers, actors in a movie. But anyway, so what I want you to do is, so you guys, I want you to keep your eyes open. And when I want you to follow when we do Khalila's podcast.
Yes.
We're going to have this conversation again. And I want y'all to join in and let us know. Have y'all seen any since we brought this to your attention? Have you felt like you've seen any? And I know, where you live, you see them every day.
Well, yeah, I mean, and you might, since we just mentioned it, you might actually start noticing it more. And I tell you something else that kind of goes in with it. I don't know if it goes in with it or not, but somebody brought my attention to this one time, and then I started noticing it. Is where they talk about the glitch in the Matrix. Oh, you ever see any of that kind of stuff?
Oh, we see that all the time.
And I noticed it one time. I was sitting waiting for somebody to come out of a doctor's appointment, and I was looking at my phone, and I looked up, and I saw this woman walk by, and she had on like this green dress and white shoes and a white purse, and she's pushing a basket. She came out, and she walked past, and I didn't pay much attention, and I looked down, and a few minutes later, I looked up again, and I see the same thing coming in front. I was like, wait, that was the same lady wearing the same outfit. and it was like, is that one of those glitches in the Matrix or something? So I don't know if that's the same thing or not. Is that
Well,
the same thing, or is
I
that...
can. So I thought I was just astral projecting until something else happened. And my guys have heard this story. So you know, I was here doing a class, and we had to go do a show in Chalmette, and Trini kept hearing my voice at the center. And I was here teaching, and I was in meditation while she kept hearing my voice. I was in trance.
And you bilocated.
Right. I bilocated. Well, so that was cool. I did bilocation.
That is kind of cool, yeah.
But then it gets weirder. So this is why I talk about the glitch, because not only did I bilocate, but then Trini went into the room, and was in the room changing clothes, and she shut the door. Well, Bonnie goes back there, and the door wasn't shut. It was open, and Trini wasn't in the room. Trini was somewhere else.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Yeah, that's the glitch in the Matrix.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they actually walked in. The room's the size of this room, and walked in like that. Because they were looking for her to go move her car for Miss Lydia, and she wasn't there. And she goes, I was in there. I was changing clothes. You didn't see me changing clothes? And she's like, no, you weren't changing clothes. The door wasn't shut. It was open.
Oh, that's crazy.
And it's in that room at the center where the table was flying and stuff.
Yeah,
that room is
definitely, there's something up with that.
There's something in that room.
There's something with that room. And, I've seen photographs like that, too. And one of the photographs I saw, I don't know if you've ever taken people inside the Charity Hospital cemetery.
I've been on your tour, but I've never taken people to it.
Well,
unless I was on your tour.
We've had a couple of people send photographs in. And one was very specific because it was a group of people I knew. It was a group of people that worked at our visitor center. And they took a couple of group pictures, and it was like a group picture. And the third one, it was a different group because the guy in the picture, his name was Michael. And I said, wait, why is this picture different? And I said, look, it's got Michael. He's walking down the street, and his back's turned to the group. And everybody looked at it and they said, well, that's really weird because he never left the group. But in one of the pictures, he was walking away. And the only other time I saw a picture like that was in the Bell Witch Cave, where there were multiple pictures taken, and all of a sudden there was one person you see with their back turned walking away, and the group saying, but that person never left. And there's absolutely no physical explanation for it. And I can't come up with one other than it's a glitch in the Matrix.
Right.
I mean,
stranger things have happened.
Strange things. You can't make this shit up. There we go.
So so I don't want to say the name of the person, but the tour guide that I went to their house though, that used to work for you, who also worked somewhere else. I don't want to mention where they work. I told you about it, but when I went to the house, that they have the second person themselves. So like things were missing out of their house, and then like they didn't know where they went, and like this jacket that he always wore disappeared, and then someone said they saw him at the Sanger Theater in that jacket, and he was home with his wife. And then this week later he gets a letter from the Sanger with his ID in it.
Oh wow! I didn't know about that.
I didn't tell you about that.
No.
That was one of your tour guides. I'll tell you about it later. I don't know.
Oh my gosh! I had no idea.
Isn't that wild?
That is wild. So it's like, how did that happen?
Because there's another him living in the same dimension at the same time.
Well, they say that there's multiple versions of us.
Because me and Dina and Misty went to their home, and we went and felt the home, and a lot of things had changed with him. Some things had changed, I think, stirred up some energy, but he actually has, him and his wife, I think, both have dual people that pop in and out and are them.
That's strange.
I know. Isn't that strange? And then ordered the book from, Charlotte's Friend. I'm going to say the name, because I don't like saying the name of the book because it's kind of evil, but the book about the book of Charlotte's Friend that passed away, and she wrote the books.
Oh, yeah.
You know, now you know what I'm talking about. Now you know why I don't want to say the name, right?
Yes.
Well, he ordered that book, And they kept saying it didn't arrive. It didn't arrive. They're going to send him a new copy, but it did arrive. And when he opened, it was all upside down. Isn't that creepy?
Oh, that is very weird.
It's the same person.
Yeah, but I've had that happen before. You know, it's one time it happened. It was my ex-husband, but I mean, and you know, he could have just been had a few too many margaritas, but I had gotten up to go leave and go get a drink, and when I came back, he says, "Why did you come back again?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, you just walked past. You just came by here and said something to me and walked past, and you had the margarita in your hand. I was wondering why you did that." And I said, "No, it wasn't me." And he said, "But it was you. I saw you. It was you." And I was like, "No, was it?" Because I'm right here. And he said, No. It was definitely you. And it was like, oh my gosh, that's I kind of an explanation for something like that.
Now, like she just said, you can't make that shit up.
Cannot make this shit up. That is right. Yeah, I know. That's definitely. Oh, she goes to Sid's readings. I know. Yeah. Definitely. I say that every day.
So you know that's how Clelia and I met. For those of you who've never read the books, This and Afterlife Mysteries, you'll learn how we met.
Yes.
But she came to get a reading from me.
I came to get a reading, and the time I came to get a reading, it was right after my youngest daughter's death, several months afterwards. He didn't know that. And I was having a hard time dealing with it because I had been working with paranormal for like 20 years, and I couldn't reach her. I saw her the next day after she passed away, and she was sitting on the edge of the bed, and I saw her and looked at her, and she looked at me and she went like this, you know, like, "Oh, look what I did," you know, and I just freaked out, and I was having trouble, really a lot of trouble reaching her. And I went to work one night, and I got out of my car, and I walked up to the corner of St. Peter and Royal where Rouse's was. And when I got to right at the corner, one of the readers from the square was walking out of Rouse's supermarket. She walked straight out, walked right up to me, reached in her purse, pulled out a card, and she said, "Here's the card of a medium in Metairie. You need this." And I said, "There's a medium in Metairie?" And I had no idea. But it was just odd that she knew. She came right to me and she said, "You need this card of this medium in Metairie." And that's how we met. And I went there, and he picked up on her, you know, like that.
Mm-hmm. That's how we met. And then from then on, it was just one wild journey that we went on.
One wild journey after another, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've been
lots of over the
world
traveling.
We've been all over the world. I mean, we really have, you know.
And experiencing all kinds of cool stuff together. And
you should have been in Brazil when we went to Brazil. That was crazy. Mm-hmm. I think that was the most bizarre one. Was the Brazil?
More bizarre than the table getting up and flying by itself.
That was pretty bizarre. Well, you know, just the thing that there was one night, I can't even remember why I was going there. I was going on a trip to Florida, to Fort Lauderdale.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I was packing to go to Fort Lauderdale the next day for whatever reason. I guess I don't know.
Probably Stephanie's birthday.
I guess so. I don't know. I was going to the beach for some reason. I was always running to the beach. So I'm doing that, and he calls for some reason. I'm literally packing a suitcase. He says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm packing my suitcase. I'm catching a plane to Fort Lauderdale." And he says, "I'm in Fort Lauderdale now. I just landed." And I was like, "What the hell are you doing in Fort Lauderdale?" He's like, "I'm just hanging out." And he said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, I'm going to be there in the morning." And he's like, well, I'm staying at such and such a place. Look me up, come get me, and we'll go have lunch and, you know, have drinks or something. So we go get him, and we go have lunch or drinks or whatever. So we're sitting in this place, and what were we drinking? Cosmopolitans. And it was kind of dark in there, and we got these drinks, and we're talking, you know, kind of like we're talking now, only we're facing each other. It's very dark in there, and all of a sudden, while I'm talking to him, I get very distracted by the fact that I see these like little sparkly things going, like coming through like this, and I can pretty much contain everything in. Like sometimes I'll just be processing things, so I was just kind of like, and he was talking, and he kind of went, and so I said, "Stop." I said, I said, "I know you saw something just now. What did you see?" And he described the same exact thing that I saw. And it was right when we were talking about my daughter, and when he mentioned Stephanie's name. And she came through, and we both felt her, and we both physically saw her as sparkles that came through. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
That was the weirdest thing. It was like,
well, that was so. One of my friends who passed away, when he passed, one of my teachers, when he passed away, one of my tutors when he died, he visited me as gold sparkles.
I remember that, right? Yeah.
He visited me as gold sparkles while I was actually driving. I'm like, shit.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Right.
that was one of your early experiences with the gold sparkles.
Gold
that's
sparkles,
right.
yeah. And I knew because it was the exact same moment because as soon as I saw that, I got the call. You know, so I was
crazy.
like, he had just died. So I was like,
Wow.
wow.
You can't make it up.
Can't make that shit up.
You cannot make this shit up. No.
Not at all. So we well, let's see what else. I thought about you the other day because we were talking about we met these people from Ireland and we were talking about the Hill of Tara. I don't want to say that I dropped the F-bomb, but it's a levee, right? Cleo and I drove through rain and
14 hours on a bus. 14 hours on a bus on a spiritual trip in Ireland. And we get all the way to the Hill of Tara, and we went into the cemetery and a church, and we saw the big Celtic cross, the first Celtic cross that supposedly St. Patrick carved and all this stuff. And it started raining, and I had a bad back. I had just injured my back with an automobile accident. And we sit in the bus, and he's like, "Are you going to go climb the Hill of Tara?" Because there was a fairy tree up there. And I was like, "It's a levee. It's a levee. And I can tell you right now, it's covered in grass and mud. It looks all slippery, and I am not slipping and sliding up that damn levee." So that's when we stayed in the bus.
Right.
And we had the episode of
Pinball Wizard. So I'm like, I kept saying, why can I keep hearing Pinball Wizard? Why? What is going on with the Pinball Wizard? And then tell him. I was doing a reading.
He kept, every time he would do a gallery back then, he would have somebody come through and he would say, "Who is Frank? Who's Frank?" And I would be like, "My mother's maiden name is Frank." Okay, so my mother's maiden name is Frank. So I'd be like, okay. You'd be like, all right. And it's like, don't forget that. Don't ask me who Frank is anymore. Because it's like,
keeps popping up.
Who's Frank? And I was like, okay. And it was like, oh my gosh, give him something different.
That dead people aggravate. That dead person aggravated me all the time. Like, Frank just wouldn't leave my head.
So we get there, and everybody else gets up for the Hill of Tara, and they're running up this levee, and they sliding all over the grass. And I said, I am not getting out.
I didn't get out either.
Slipping and sliding all over that damn levee. I said, I know what's going to happen. I'll be covered in mud. I'm going to fall. I said, I ain't dealing with it. So we're in the bus, and we're killing ourselves laughing. And all of a sudden, he's like, why do I hear Pinball Wizard? And I said, oh, my God. It's the Frank thing again. And I said, all right.
But I ain't calling Frank. I kept singing Pinball Wizard.
Yeah. And it was, and the reason he kept hearing Pinball Wizard, and this is how spirit works, guys. You know, so when you get things, you never know where it's going to lead you, and you should never go. Because I would always do that. I'd be like, "Oh God, that's stupid. I shouldn't say that. That's really stupid. That is the most stupid thing." I'm not.
I say the stupid stuff.
I'm not going to say anything. You know, and then I would later say it and go, "Oh, now it makes sense," because somebody would go, "Oh yeah, right." But so he's like, "What is Pinball Wizard?" And I said, "Oh my God." I said, "All right, now I'm going to tell you who Frank is." I said, Pinball Wizard was, of course, the Who song from the musical Tommy. Okay. And Pinball, you know, was a deaf, dumb, and blind kid. Well, my cousin Tommy, whose last name was Frank, had just passed away, and he was a deaf mute. And
that's how he came to me.
And that's how he came to him, because he kept saying Frank. And I'm like, my mother's whole side of her family's last name was Frank. Can you get a little more specific? Because I don't know who you're talking about. I said, her whole family's last name was Frank. I know. And then when he started singing Pinball Wizard, I said, oh my God, it's my cousin Tommy. So, you know, that's how they came across. And it was funny because there was one time I did a gallery down in Thibodaux. I was driving down in Thibodaux, and for some reason, I kept seeing all my deaf relatives. Because my mother's mother was deaf, and all of her brothers were deaf. And they kept coming to me, and I'm like, what do y'all want? Why am I seeing deaf people? What's going on? And they just kept coming to me. And it was like, it's not y'all's turn. I have to go do a gallery for somebody else. We can't do this. So I get down there. So I'm not going to go in there and start talking about my people because I seen deaf. It was like, no. So I waited until the very, very end. And it was one lady who did not get a reading. And I was like, I got nothing else but my dead relatives talking to me in sign language that I didn't understand, going, so I'm going to have to just throw this out here. And I said, okay. And I said, I keep seeing my relatives, but they were all deaf. And the woman goes, my parents were deaf. And I was like, oh, thank God. It was like, oh my God. I'm so glad. And I was like, no, wait, no, not really.
Spirit comes in the most subtle ways. Like,
yes,
I'm telling one about something. I can't get Pinball Wizard out of my head, and it's because that was her cousin Tommy, who was deaf.
That he found. Yeah, well, it's funny though how he picked that up.
And I had not known that your family was deaf.
No, it's just nothing that came up. I mean,
nope.
The only person who knew that was Henry.
Because he did sign language.
Because he was studying sign language. And when he told me that, I mentioned, that I had deaf relatives, But other than that, nobody else knew. And, it's just,
That's crazy.
They had all been dead for a long time. It's just not something you bring up, So, but yeah, that's how he came. That's how he manifested. He starts playing Pinball Wizard in his head. That was funny as hell.
So, we talked about Soulless People. We talked about the podcast. We talked about our bus tour. We talked about what not to do in the cemetery. Do you have any questions for Kalila and I? This is a time you're going to get us both together.
All right. Somebody saying, Deidre says, so how does alcohol interfere with spirit?
It depends what culture you're in, really.
Spirits like spirits like alcohol, okay? They're attracted to it. And, in the voodoo tradition, you'll see people like pouring rum and so forth to the spirits. And
Kelly Shaw just said hello.
Hey, Kelly. I went to Kelly for a long time as a voice coach. Hey, Kelly. But the alcohol attracts them. Also, the altered states. It's the altered. You get into that altered states. When people are in the altered states, they're more opened up, so it's easier for those spirits to walk in. But the way it was described to me, and it wasn't just in this book that I read that years and years ago when I was going to school to be a massage therapist and studying Asian bodywork and all. I had one teacher that told me, one time she said, do not ever put your hands on anybody that is an alcoholic or a drug addict because they got negative entities hanging around them. And the belief in that school of thought is that the spirits, when somebody who's heavily addicted to something here, be it drugs or alcohol, that when that person passes, their spirit stays attached to the earth bound to continue to indulge in that drinking or drug use or even sex addiction, addiction.
Anything negative.
Or gambling or what have you. But more commonly is, the drug and the alcohol and the partying. But they stay earthbound and they attach to somebody who's indulging in that kind of behavior and drive them further into the addiction and the alcohol use. So that's what it's got to do with, is just that it attracts those spirits that are hanging around hoping that somebody's going to be indulging in drinking so that they can latch onto it so they can experience that.
So listen to me, guys. So I was at an event, and I don't want to say which one it was, but I was at an event. There were some energy workers there. And they were busy. Like, they had a line of people. But one thing they were doing that I didn't agree with, because I am an expert on energy. I can tell you what's going on with it. I can tell you how to move it. But one thing you must know is that energy doesn't die. I mean, that is Einstein's theory. That scientifically, energy does not die. So what that means is when you go to these places and you see people doing all this healing work and you see them tossing energy, they throwing it off that person, throwing it onto somebody else. Okay?
You don't want to be there when you're doing that.
Unless unless they change in its form from kinetic to potential. And so that's why you'll see any good healers, or I'm going to say good because I want to say the word responsible healers. Most responsible healers will have either a bowl of water or a plant or something where they can put those energies down into to help them go back to that potential phase versus the kinetic phase. But if you're at one of these events and you see people just doing like touching people and they do this with their hands, they're taking people's energy and they throwing it at you out there. So I'm over there like this. I'm like pushing it back with my powerful energy.
No, and it's not just energy. If you have an entity that's attached to you and you're pulling it off, it's going to go somewhere. And it wants to go in somewhere like a medium.
Right.
It really does. When I used to get the stuff pulled off of me in Miami, they used to put it like in a chicken, or something. And it's, it was a pretty big deal because you don't want that going in you. I mean, it's sometimes you see things in these movies and sometimes it's based a little bit in truth, like the end of The Exorcist where the demon came out and it jumped into priest and he had to jump out the window because the spirit had to go somewhere. That's why you don't want to be around that kind of stuff when people are pulling that kind of stuff off of people,
unless you know where they're putting it.
Like there's been things where there's like free rituals in New Orleans. There's a free voodoo ritual. We're going to do a cleanse. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere around that. So,
I mean, is it okay to do a paranormal investigation in the cemetery? What are you trying to find? There's nothing. So, there really is nothing in a cemetery that's paranormal other than the entities that are protecting the cemetery.
Well, there are. There actually are. There's the discarnate spirits.
Well, energy, but
that are wanting to, jump into. I mean, I wouldn't recommend using a spirit box because you're just encouraging it. I mean,
now when we go into an investigation, like in a place, that's different. But in a cemetery, I probably wouldn't in a cemetery. I would at a location. Like we're going to some really cool locations that I'm going to have to go get cleansed before and after every time I go. But we're taking some people to a prison where Martin Luther King's murderer was. It's one of the most haunted prisons. And then we go into another haunted location. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So we're going to take people to a few places to sense, but you have to cleanse before and after, and you have to keep your energy up. You have to know your energy before you go to a place like this. You have to have your energy in a positive place. I will not take somebody who has not been baptized or christened on a serious paranormal investigation. And people ask me why. Well, because if you've seen any movie that tells you the truth, okay? Yes, and Tracy used to own a paranormal business and used to take people up into Colorado into the ghost towns and stuff, and they did a lot of it, and she can tell, yes. Cemeteries is not really a place you go to cemeteries for history. You go to cemeteries to visit or to clean or to honor someone. But I wouldn't go there for anything else. There's really nothing there.
No, bad things happen in cemeteries. Yeah. I mean, we there was a cemetery that Philip and I did the investigation on for the 2009 television show that we did, the Haunted New Orleans. Because
she's telling me not to go.
Yeah. Well, it was 2009, and it was for television, so it was a little bit different.
Well, no, it's a cemetery. You're doing the work.
I needed material for a show. It was television. I had to do it. So a girl called, and she said, my brother went into a cemetery, and, but first they were watching Ghost Hunters. It always starts off with we were watching Ghost Hunters, and they were drinking beer, and they said, we could do that. We could do that right there. We could do what they're doing. Let's go down to the cemetery and see what we find. So they went to the cemetery, and it's funny because I was talking to my friend Catherine just the other night about this, and I got her on speakerphone. I'm driving around, and Catherine's in the seat, and as the girl's talking, I whispered to Catherine, I said, how long do you think it's going to be before she tells me what he picked up in the cemetery? I said, he picked up something, took it home. Watch. He picked up something, took it home. And she's like, and now everything's happening, and there's all kind of stuff, and we hear things growling over there. And I said, what did he take home with him? And she goes, oh, I don't know. And I said, no, he took something. I said, he took something out of a grave, like a bone or something. What did he take? She goes, I don't think he took anything. I said, oh, he took something. So I said, okay, we'll come by. We made an appointment. And I told her, I said, I wonder how long it's going to take once I get there before he admits what he took out of the cemetery. And I went there. I interviewed the kid. He didn't say anything until we got to the cemetery. And he still held true with his story. And I was like, okay, let's see. How are we going to get this guy to talk? So I said, okay, I tell you what. Why don't you retrace your steps and show me exactly what you did and where you went before you went back home? And he said, okay. So he went da-da, 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 da-da. And then I noticed that there was a crack in the tomb, and I reached in and I pulled out this bone and I went, stop. And what did you do with the bone? Oh, well, then I brought that back to the car. And then he got to the punchline because he said, and then I put it in the car, and when I opened the door, I said, if there's anything here that wants to come home with me, come on. And I said, oh my God. And when I later looked at the footage, and I got to try to find this footage on one of the old hard drives. When I later looked at the footage, when I was following him around, when he was retracing his steps, there was this trail of ecto that was doing this behind him. It was literally following him and just like it was attached to him. And
I've seen that.
That was creepy,
I've seen that.
creepy. But it's like I can tell immediately what they did, and it's like let's see how long it was before I can make him crack and tell me what he did.
So again, I probably would not do anything disrespectful in a cemetery. I would never ever invite anything home with me for anytime. Look, when I leave people's house after talking to their mamas and daddies and brothers and cousins, I don't bring them home with me. I'll leave them there. Yeah. Because I'm dealing with the souls of people there. What we're dealing with here is more energetic. It's not souls. There's a difference. There is a difference. Because I believe all souls have. So the way when we talk to the other side, when we, and this did come up, and I think I've told you this a dozen times. I don't know if Kalila ever heard this. She might have. But when we've talked to the other side, what they say happens when you transition from this life to the next part of your life is that everything negative, only love and memories cross with you. That's why mediums get memories and they sense the love. They sense the memories of if there was something that somebody was mad about, they'll sense the memory of it. But the action or the negativity of it remains here in the physical. So when they transition, they only bring in that love with them, and they're bringing those memories. All that nasty stuff stays here.
And some of the things that I'll say, we talking about myself and Zita and Sylvia in our circle, because we have a physical circle. But some of the things that we have discovered with some of the seances that or circles that we've done with Sylvia, because Sylvia does direct voice and spirits coming through, and it doesn't happen like as soon as they cross over. There's like a period in time in which like they have to go and get other spirits to work with them and pray with them and counsel them and kind of remove those memories from them. And it's a process, it's almost like they have to go through like a detox.
Well, there's actually, and I teach there was a class that Tanya and I, and God, I can see her face. It was me, Tanya, and Alicia Fosen from Mississippi taught. Yeah. And it was another level of mediumship. We actually talked about what happens on the other side from the spiritual point of view. And there's different time periods where different things happen. I don't know if you were in that class, but there's no. And this comes down from like Mavis Patilla and a lot of the spiritualists. And so there is teachings of what happens in time frames on the other side. So of things that you go through, and that some of it's education and beauty, but the whole time you can still connect. But it's
and there's also a movie that they can watch. There's 2 movies now because there's a sequel to it. And I know a lot of people are kind of funny about not wanting to watch movies that have subtitles that aren't in English, but it's in Portuguese. It is a Brazilian movie. It's very well done, extremely well done. In Brazilian, it is called Nosso Lar, which means our home. But the English version of it is called Astral City. And you can actually download it on Prime. And I bought the DVD, but it's called Astral City. And I'll just give you the tagline. I'll kind of give you the gist of the movie. It's about a doctor, and it said his real life's work did not begin until after his death. And this is where, because in Brazil, a lot of the mediums, most famous medium there was Chico Xavier, and he wrote, I can't even tell you how many books this man wrote. He wrote books where he was channeling spirits of the other side, telling people what it was like over there. That was his job. Never took a dime for it. He didn't make any money off of it. He just gave the money away. But he channeled these books, and these spirits wrote through him as to what life was like there. And this was the first person. The movie's about the first person that was told, once he got to the other side, you're going to go and you're going to write a book through this medium down here, and you're going to tell everybody what it's like here. And it's an amazing story. And the sequel just came out, and I think it's on Disney too, if I'm not mistaken. And I haven't even had time to see it yet. But it's an amazing story, because in his life, he was a doctor, but at the same time, he was very arrogant and kind of self-centered, and he didn't have a lot of compassion for people. He was kind of short with people, and and then when he passed away, he had to face all of those sides of himself. And he literally he wakes up in a place they call umbral, which would be what the Catholics in English would consider purgatory, and he wakes up there, and they kept calling him a suicide. He's like, I didn't commit suicide. And they would flash back to some of the things he was doing in life, how he ate, how he drank, his actions, the hate, all of these things that, he carried with him. And on the other side, they looked at that as how he damaged himself. And it's just an incredible story. And you walk away from it with a completely different opinion of what the other side is like. And it was so beautiful because the doctor's name is Dr. Andre Luz, Luz. And when I went to Brazil, in Sylvia's hometown, where her mother, the spiritual center where her mother goes, and where Sylvia grew up, it was the Dr. Andre Luz Spiritual Center, named after him.
Cool.
Yes,
Oh,
very
cool.
beautiful. Yeah, very neat. So it kind of all came full circle for us,
So,
But I recommend it strongly to get that movie, Astral City.
I'm gonna have to watch it. I haven't watched television in so long.
You would love it. You would absolutely love it. You really would. We thoroughly enjoyed it.
So yes, we truly believe that, according to what we're told, through seance and through people who are able to bring the other side to life, that on the other side, there's nothing's negative is really allowed over there. But you might have memories of it, and those memories may be brought back to you, but you lose all that energy stays over here.
Yeah, they forget a lot of stuff. They make you forget. And it's interesting, and I haven't had time to delve more into it because of I got earthly things I got to deal with, like work and pesky things like work, and making money.
Don't we all?
But the last time, of course, every time we have a session, Billy comes through. Of course, he does a lot of the automatic writing through Sylvia. I can't wait until he figures out he can talk through Sylvia. We haven't had that happen yet, but it kind of blew my mind, because the last time he came through, his message to me is, because he always tell me, I want you to finish our work that we were working on. I want you to complete the things that we worked on. We were working on 2 books and so forth. And he says, you really need to focus more on the darker stuff. And I was like, really? And so now I'm curious as to what did he see over there. So it's something I'm going to be delving into to see why did he say that. Because that would not be something typically that Billy would say. And he says, clearly, you must go deeper into the darker
but that's
stuff
also
and
when
tell people about it and educate them about it.
Right, because that's also So think about what's going on in the world today.
Well, I know, yeah. And so,
so-
Sylvia's read a book, and unfortunately it's only in Portuguese, but there was a medium in Brazil who recently wrote a book about why things are the way they are today. And why all of these spirits are like rapidly, they're dying and then they're coming right back, and they're never really crossing over and developing. They're just, these negative spirits are coming back, coming back, coming back. And that might be where you're getting your soulless people. And a lot of the hate and the negativity and the killings in the world and all of that. And the crazy
And the
stuff.
greed.
And the greed, yeah, the greed. That's greed is part of it too, and the hate, and the
7
insanity.
deadly sins.
The insanity. Look at how you got
Entitlement.
crazy people. There are crazy people everywhere. People are nuts. People are absolutely nuts.
Guys, I love people. I love all people. Y'all know that. I'm at work. I hug everybody. Everybody's love. I just love everybody. I don't believe in hating people. I mean, I might stay away from you because you might be a little cray-cray. But I don't hate you. You know? 'Cause we do have those.
We do.
We do have those. We do have
out there.
a little cray-cray. You have to stay from them. But I don't hate. But I don't hate anybody. I want everybody to do well and do wonderful. And I really care about people. And and I think that's why I think a lot of things don't get attached to me, is because I push out that love. And once you have that powerful shield, then nothing can really attach. It's when you have those weak moments that they do attach. When you have those moments of depression, or you ask for it. God knows.
Well, there's a lot of, that's just it. A lot of people are looking for the dark stuff. And that's not what Billy was telling me to do. He wants me to educate people about the dark stuff. So I know he saw something over there that was not too cool. But, to warn people and educate them so they understand. But the people out there that look for the dark stuff, and they're always constantly like attracted to it and wanted it. And I always tell them, I've told them from day number 1 when I got involved in this kind of work, if you go looking for dark and spooky stuff's going to find you. And don't come to me when it attaches to you, because I don't want to be bothered with it. Don't bring it to me.
Or me anymore. When I'm my younger days, I will tell you.
His younger days, he'd be like, "Yeah, I'll go for it. I'll go deal with it."
I know. I'll go help you get rid of it. I'll still help you get rid of it.
I'm like,
you can call me. You can call me. The priest won't help you. I have a woman I just sent to 15 different priests who's got an issue, and none of them will help her. They just keep her saying the rosary. Say the rosary. Say the rosary.
I got a motto: not my demon, not my problem.
Say the rosary. Say the rosary.
It's like no.
That's all they tell you. Say the rosary.
But when I warn people of stuff, for instance, the kid in the cemetery, after I brought Philip, we decided it was something indigenous to the land. It was Native American. I brought Philip in, who was Choctaw, to clear it and cleanse the kid, the whole 9 yards. We went and appeased it in the cemetery, put everything back to rest, told the dude, don't ever do that again. Don't do it again, because we're not coming back, okay? 2 months later, he called me and said, that thing in the cemetery came back. And I said, why? What did you do? Well, I went back over there. And I said, you know what? I'm done with that chapter. We did that episode. We're not doing it again. So sorry. I don't know what to tell you.
You remember what happened to me when we went to that place?
Oh God!
We went
that place burned down.
Yeah, I do know it burned down.
It's everything there is always burned down.
We went to do an investigation at a place, and I got threatened because the guy didn't want to let the spirit go.
That's why. Yeah, but you notice I left.
Well, we all left when he threatened me. We all left.
We did an investigation out where I live in La Place. There was this place called Cadillacs, and I originally did the investigation. The owner called me out there. Excuse me. It was the 25th anniversary of a band that had played there for many years, and they were having their last gig. And they kept seeing a man in the reflection of the freezer there. It was flipping everybody out, and that really happened. They kept seeing it, and
I can tell you what a man, he lived in the top up there. We saw that.
But that
wasn't the evil piece, though.
No, that man that lived at the top was the man that used to own the building.
He died in there.
The guy that they kept seeing, though, was a younger guy. He was the original keyboard player for the band.
Okay.
And many years before, he had to leave the gig early because he was getting married the next day or something. And he told everybody good night. He went out the side door. He walked out the door, and at that precise moment, a customer who was drunk had come out of the parking lot. She drove the wrong way down Airline Highway, realized she was driving the wrong way down the street. She turned around like this, went back down the driveway at the precise time he walked out that side door, and she hit him and killed him on the day before his wedding. And I did the investigation, and on the night that they played their last gig, you could see the ecto over the keyboard.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. He just wanted to show up for that gig, and I was seeing him. So later on, when the guy called me back to go out there, when you came with me, that was some new guy that worked there, and he liked the idea. Oh, well, maybe they'll come back out here if I say I'm seeing something. And we went out there, and he was real cocky, real arrogant, and I was like, well, okay, you got to do this, and I didn't believe him, you know. And we had to wait for the place to be closed down. So you got to wait till 2 o'clock in the morning for the band to stop playing. So it's not, so you know, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm tired. You know, I don't want anybody with attitude. I don't want anybody with a fake ghost or any of that kind of stuff. So we're over there, and he's like, and I said, okay, this is what you do. Do this, 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 and this, and it'll go away. And he says, what if I don't want it to go away? And I said, well, you have fun with that, because I'm tired. I'm going home and go to sleep. And I said, come on, Sid, let's go. And Sid goes, well, I'm going to stay. And I said, you have fun with that too, because I'm going home. I'm out of here. And I left. And then he tried to, what did he try to do? Try to hit you in the face?
Yeah,
or
he
something?
wanted to hit me because he didn't want me to take his ghost away. I said, well, keep your ghost. And we left. But we also had a class there, remember? And so that's why I couldn't leave.
The class
because the class was still there when you left. They were with me, and we were still doing some of the research, talking about the research that we did. And that's what he said. He goes, he liked his ghost. He didn't want, what if I don't want to lose my ghost? Somebody keep her.
And he said,
and
why
you said, just get out of there.
Why are you wasting my time? It was like, why'd you waste my time? It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't have time for this nonsense.
So that's kind of what, what we went through at that location. But that place, lots of stuff happened there. Like, it burned down, twice? And the little girl got killed she got bit and got killed. That because it was the snake farm.
It was the snake farm, and it was the niece of the owner.
Yeah.
And
I looked up the article on that.
She's 12 or 13. She went to feed, which is not a good idea. Why would you let a kid go feed the cobra? I mean, come on, you know. She went to go feed the cobra, and she opened up the cage of the cobra and put her hand in there to feed the cobra, and the cobra bit her. And of course,
they didn't have
this
the
is the
anti-venom.
1960s or 70s. They don't have anti-venom here. There's no anti-venom here for cobras. So they had to airlift her and try to get her to Miami, because it was the closest place that they could to get her to, where they might, have the anti-venom, and she didn't make it. And the owner never got over the guilt, because that was his niece, and killed her.
Then we did the history, and that was the only Cherokee tribe went through that were cannibals that harvested that land. So that land had all kind of wicked stuff on it when we did the history of the land.
Yeah. You had a lot of cannibals back then in the swamps, you know?
Yeah.
They
was hungry. They didn't want to eat Nutra. They didn't want to eat.
They had a lot.
No,
they had a lot of cannibals. No, I can't. It started with an A. Attakapas tribe. I might be saying that wrong, but there was a specific tribe that was a cannibal tribe that was here in Louisiana when they first came here, and I think they called them the Attakapas or something. It was a Choctaw word that meant people eater, and they ate people. So
Yeah.
Can't make this shit.
Can't make that shit up. So guys, it's getting a little late, and we've been on for quite some time. And I know we normally do readings, but I got company tonight, so I'm not going to do any readings tonight. I'm just going to... If y'all have any questions for us, now's the time, because we got about 9 more minutes, and we're going to have to shut it down.
Oh, thank you, Crystal. If you're telling me you think I said it correctly, thank you. Because
Okay.
I hadn't seen that word since...
But we will answer any questions real quick. Crazy question. The trip...
The top of the porch ceiling being painted blue. Do you think it works, or just an old New Orleans tradition?
I don't know. I mean, that's as New Orleans is like the key being upside down on the gate so the ghost can't get in.
Well, that's to confuse the spirits. That is a true tradition. Now, I have heard, I don't know what the rest of your question is. I have heard, and I don't know if it's true or not, I heard they painted it blue because it looks like the sky, and that the spiders won't go there. I don't
So wait, what is that? What is this? Oh, do you know? Wait, do you know why they called the Unabomber the Unabomber? Do you know what the U and the A is for? I learned this in trivia last night.
The Unabomber.
At serial killer trivia.
Because he was by himself.
Any of y'all that did not go to anybody here that did not go to serial killer trivia last night know why
The Unabomber.
the Unabomber? Why they called the Unabomber the
Unabomber?
Unabomber? No,
Because he was a singular person by himself.
no, the U and the
walking
A
alone.
actually have meaning.
Oh, I don't know.
No. Yep, I was with Misty last night. Yes, so then that was one of the questions Misty gave at the serial killer trivia night. Yes, I was with Misty last night.
No.
Does anybody know why? So the U and the A. This is what the police called because the U and the A stood for. U was for university and airports because he bombed universities and airports.
Oh.
So he was a Unabomber.
Oh. Okay.
Isn't that a cool thing?
I had no
Who
idea.
knew?
Who knew?
Who knew?
Who knew?
Who
Somebody
knew?
knew. They
I
knew.
learned that trivia.
I
night.
had no idea. No, I thought it was because it was just one person working alone.
So I'm really tested. Do you know what the first toy on television was?
Howdy Doody?
No, that was Howdy Doody a toy?
He was a puppet?
No, it wasn't Howdy, but you're close. It was Mr. Potato Head. Was the first toy on television. But yeah, that's about the universe. So yeah, so I got when you go to trivia night, you get to learn all kind of cool stuff. So I went to trivia night last night at Gumbo Ron's with Misty, and I thought it was the Slinky too, Tracy.
Slinky.
I got it wrong. My answer was Slinky, and no, the answer was Mr. Potato Head.
Mr. Potato Head
Head was the first toy that was advertised on television.
Oh, advertised on television. Okay, yeah. Okay.
I thought it was the Slinky. My answer was I went with Slinky. And remember that thing used to hook to the hose and used to fly around and make you wet, and we used to sell so many of them when we were kids. Yeah, I don't see that anymore. Cause kids today don't go outside; they stay on video games all day.
That's it.
Right.
See what this is.
You used to fly. You remember that, huh? You remember that, huh?
It would chase you.
Yes, it would. It would chase you all
Oh
over.
my God, those things were funny.
They
oh
were
my
funny.
God.
They like.
We were so lucky to have the childhood
Yes,
to be
we were.
out.
Yes, we were.
We had
Lucky
some
as
cool,
children.
remember
Such
slip
a
and
wonderful-
slides?
Yes, it is. Yes, I remember the slip and slides.
I'd have the slip and slide with the thing that would do that.
Oh, kids today, all they know is video games. They don't have all the tacky toys we used to have and play with.
Yeah, we had some good stuff.
We did. It was good
We
stuff.
had good stuff.
So, any more questions, you guys, before we sign out? Do I have anybody here? No, I don't. Who's going to Hawaii? Fun night. Somebody out there.
Thanks, Tina.
Is somebody out there going to Hawaii soon? I won't.
To mention
Saturday, I'm reading in Chalmette. I almost forgot. Sorry. Thank you, Daphne, for reminding me. I'm in Chalmette. If y'all want to book a reading, go on Facebook, Google Daphne or me. Google Facebook Daphne or me. I'm doing 30-minute sessions in Chalmette this Saturday from 10 a.m. to last appointment will be 5 p.m. Because then I'm going casino bound. We got rooms for overnight in
where in Chalmette? Where?
By Daphne's house. But you have to if you're in the parish and you want to get a reading with me, I'll be in the parish.
The parish.
Yeah, I'll be in the parish Saturday.
The parish, darling.
In the parish, darling.
Yeah,
and you can come.
Parish,
We've been doing
darling.
a lot in the parish. We just did Nacho Dead People at that restaurant in the parish. We sold out.
Oh my God, Saint Bernard.
Down in Saint Bernard. And then we got and besides the bus tour, Misty and I and Dina are trying to put together a bayou cruise. It starts in Chalmette, and we'll be on a platoon boat doing readings and giving messages and stuff like that. And that's gonna be another fun. That's coming in the fall.
Here, look, Tracy. No definite plan on Thailand, but next trip
will be Hawaii. I just got somebody talking about Hawaii.
The parish, baby.
The parish. I got somebody in my head talking about, I think this is like a grandmother to you, to this person, because it comes down the female side for me. So I do feel that as well. And There's also something about a duck. So I don't know what that means, but just know that I said that because that's really crazy. Because that grandmother just dropped a duck. That's all I gotta say. I don't know why she did that because that's not a common thing for me. Missy always has such fun events. She does, especially when she plans them with me. Oh, and don't forget, they're almost sold out. If you want to do what's the Axe Murderers Hotel? What's it called? The Haunted Hotel?
The Haunted Hotel on Ursuline
So
Street.
Haunted Hotel, July 12th. If y'all, there's only 5 rooms left for that event. We will be going and doing a, there was also another event combined with that where we're going to do a seance at oh god, it's at the it starts with an A. It's not the Apothecary. Is it the Yes, at
Apothecary.
The Apothecary. We're going to be doing a seance at the Apothecary.
Oh,
I
are you
believe.
really?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. So I'll be doing.
Where are you doing that? Upstairs?
In the seance room, yeah.
In the apothecary?
Mm-hmm.
She has a seance room?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
I knew Muriel's had a seance room.
No, this is they have one in the Apothecary.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
I love the apothecary.
So I will be there.
We start the tours from the apothecary.
Oh, really? Well, I will be there doing a seance.
When?
July 12th.
Oh, okay.
That weekend. So yes, the Haunted Hotel. So definitely go look about that. There's only 5 rooms left. I think last I saw 4 rooms. No, because Dina took her upstairs.
Tina wants to know what is the actual address on Ursuline.
The Haunted Hotel. Just look up the Haunted Hotel. They'll give you the address. It's right in between Royal and Charters.
Yeah, it's gonna be the
So I'm gonna
800 block.
Let me tell another cool story. Look, I can't hang up. Let me tell another cool story. So I went 623. I went last year, and I'm telling Magni, I think I'm all cool. Magni, I think I've been here before. I'm like, I'm having deja vu. He's like, yeah, you idiot. You and Khalil are the ones that felt the accident at this hotel 8 years ago. And he saw posting up pictures of me in that hotel. So I'm like, oh, and it's you funny. Remember?
Yes, of course I remember.
I
took my class there. I took the class there, and then I brought you back afterwards to see what you felt. And that's where what we felt there was that somebody was hiding there after committing a bunch of murders. And the hotel said, and I said, well, maybe it was the axe murder. We can't really prove that. And then the hotel, of course, just took the ball and ran with it, and they put on their website, this is where the axe murderer lived. We didn't really know that, but it was somebody who killed a lot of people during that time frame that was hiding there. So that's what we really came up with. And it could, but it made sense. It made sense because that area of the French Quarter during that time frame, which when I'm talking about that time frame, the late 1800s, early 1900s, up in that time frame, that area of the French Quarter had kind of fallen into ruin and was home to poor Italian immigrants, and that's who were getting axed at the time.
Right. So I didn't even find that. I'm getting all this. I feel like I know where everything is. Look, he's like, you idiot. He's like, you idiot, because you've been here with Kalila.
I love Maggie. He's so funny. It's so funny.
I'm like, oh, I guess that's why it feels familiar. So anyway, we're going back there this year. And we'll be there that weekend, and so we are hoping some of you guys can join us. We're also going to be doing, I'm pretty sure we're going to be doing a gallery of some sort as well at the hotel, as well as doing the seance at the I think it's at the apothecary. I think
apothecary.
That's apothecary. I know. My Italian tongue don't wrap around some of those.
Apothecary.
So. And apparently they have a seance room, and they want me to lead a seance. I said I haven't done it in years, but we'll see what happens.
Oh, should be interesting. Are you doing like a physical seance, or
like we did for the Touch and Eternity time? We actually had stuff happening, and people could see stuff like the comedy, like I do, the old-fashioned type, with the singing and the praying and the and see what happens, right?
And just see what happens,
right? And like we've always had stuff happen, but you never know what's going to happen. We've
had some cool stuff happen.
We have. And if her table's round, which I think it is, I think she told me it is, I haven't table tipped since Denise died. But I might even, if it's a table tipping table, I might even put hands on it and see if we can make it move and fly around the room. That's We used to do it. Haven't done it in a while, but we'll see. We'll see.
When is this happen?
The weekend of July 12th. But all I remember last year, it was hot. Like, I won't stay until I'm coming home when my air condition works and I got a pool to go dip in before I come in, because it was hot.
How big is her table, though? Is it?
I don't know. I've never seen it, so I don't know. I don't know. So I'm not staying the night. They call it the lockdown because they lock you in the hotel, but there's all kinds of events going on. And I think after the apothecary and the seance, after we finish all the galleries and all that fun stuff, there is like a short bar crawl, like 3 bars, because they learned their lesson. Last time they did like 10, and it was so hot that they were all dying by the end of it. So some it's like 3. So they do like that back, and then Sunday they all leave very early. But there's gonna be a lot of other mediums there. I think Kerry Roy's gonna be there. I'm there. There's a couple of other people. So if you go look on the follow Misty Gaither, and it's all, she has it all posted. If you follow me on Facebook, you'll see it because I put it up. They had I thought they had karaoke last year too. Okay, cool. So yeah, it was a fun event. I'm going to try to bring some new stuff this year to help. The hotel itself, when you have that many people, you're not going to really experience a whole lot. And that's what I could not explain to people, is that when you have that many people crossing paths and wanting to see something, it's too many. When you have 25, 30 people in an area everybody's energy is absorbing all the energy that's there. When you're doing paranormal investigation, you should limit the amount of people. And when you have a group like that, you send a couple of people in different ways with equipment you're going to see more that way. But if you get everybody's energy going in and out, it's blending that negative or positive, it's blending with everybody.
It's too much. It's chaotic. It's too much. It starts fighting against each other, and then you don't know what energy's alive or dead or whatever.
Right, and so we want to get some good stuff. But anyway, so that's coming up July 12th. And don't forget, I got to go to the intro again. Let's do intro 2. Touching Eternity, the podcast. And this isn't Alicia Nicole, this is Kalila Smith. But I put it on so you can see her. I put it on the double. And Alicia's, like I said, she was my girl, and then she's got a new job and taken a lot of her time away from me. So
the role of Alicia was played by Kalila.
The role of Alicia was played by Kalila tonight. And but Touching Eternity is June 4th to June 8th in Orlando, Florida. They're running out of hotel rooms, so only thing they have left is what's in my block. The rest of the hotel is sold out because it is a big event going on in Orlando at that time. And Tina says, nice meeting you, Kalila.
Nice to meet you too, Tina. Thank you.
So
thank you guys for coming.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
We love you. And if you came in late and want to catch it, everything here is saved on YouTube. So once again, thank you for joining me on Touching Eternity, the podcast. I'm Sid Patrick.